Yesterday we had completed the lesson. Now today we will discuss the exercises, right? Okay, so let us begin with the questions. Answer these questions in 1 or 2 sentences each. These 1 or 2 sentences questions are those which you are expected to answer in 30 to 40 words, right? Yes. Where was Abdul Kalam's house?
Abdul Kalams born into a middle class family into the Rameshwaram.
Okay. Vinayak, what is your answer?
Abdul Kalam's house was on the Moss Street in Rameshwaram.
Right. This is very precise an answer, Anmol. Right? You were not supposed to say he was born. Now, one thing I tell you here, children, when you are getting short questions, meaning 20 to 30 words or 30 to 40 words, right? You have to give very precise answer. Okay, you are not supposed to add any information which is not required. When there is long answer, in long answer, maybe sometimes you do not know exactly the answer, but then you will write what happened before and what happened after, and that's how you will make up your answer, and definitely you are given marks for that. Is that clear? That is not for examination point of view, I'm saying. But here the question is, where was Abdul Kalam's house? So we have to talk precisely about house only. Where was it located? Where was it situated? Right? So the correct answer is his house was on the Mosque Street in Rameshwaram. Right? Or yes, Anmol, you can also say he was living in a house on Mosque Street in Rameshwaram. Or he lived on Mosque Street in Rameshwaram. Is that clear?
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what do you think Dinamani is the name of?
Dinamani is the name of a newspaper.
Right. Dinamani is the name of a local newspaper of Rameshwaram. Right? Dinamani was not a general newspaper. It was a local newspaper. We don't get this newspaper anywhere else. Okay. Again, very specifically, you would say Dinamani is the name of a local newspaper of Rameshwaram. How give a reason for your answer. How do you know it is the name of the newspaper?
Abdul Kalam used to find news about the Second World War.
Very good, very good. He used to trace the information, he used to find information regarding or the news regarding the Second World War that had broken out in the newspaper, right? Okay. Who were Abdul Kalam's school friends?
Ramananda Shastri, Arvindam, Shiv Prakasham.
Okay, right, very right. What did they later become?
Ramanathan Shastri became a priest
Right.
of the Rameshwaram temple.
Correct.
Arvindan went into the business of catering.
Aravindan went into the business of, he started doing the business of?
Transport of pilgrims.
Yes, arranging transport for the pilgrims.
Shiv Prakasham became a catering contractor.
Right, he became a catering contractor for the Southern Railways. Is that clear? So please do remember this. For this answer, I would suggest you, if you remember the 3 names in order and in the same order of the names, if you memorize what they had been doing or what they had become, I think it would be very simple and easy for you to remember this answer. Right? How you must prepare yourself for this answer? First, Ramanand Shastri, High Priest of Rameshwaram Temple. Second, Arvindan, arranging transport for pilgrims. Third, Shiva Prakashan, catering contractor for Southern Railway. Just remember these on tips. And when you answer in your paper, then you will write complete sentences. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
These are few examination tips which I keep giving the children side by side. Okay. How did Abdul Kalam earn his first wages?
Abdul Kalam earned his first wage by collecting the tamarind seed and sent to the provision shop into the mosque street.
Okay. Was that the first wage? Anmol, you gave me the answer. You gave me the meaning of wages. So when he was collecting the tamarind seeds and giving it to the provision store, was it the wages he was earning?
Ma'am, 1 anna.
1 anna? No, I'm not talking about how much wages he was earning. The point here is, how did he earn his first wages? Wages is...
Ma'am, Abdul Kalam earned his first wages by distributing newspapers.
Right, correct. Now try to understand, Anmol. You only gave me the meaning of wages. Wages meaning when you are given money by someone for doing work on daily basis. You remember?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So how did he earn his first wages? When he started collecting the newspapers from Rameshwaram railway station and distributing it. He was assisting his brother-in-law or cousin, I think, right? So simply you have to remember that he had earned his first wages by distributing the newspapers which he collected from Rameshwaram station. Is that clear? So how was that his first wage? Because he did the work. Daily he had been distributing the newspapers and daily he was being paid money by the one who had hired him for this job. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Okay. Now the next is, had he earned any money before that? Anmol, you answer this now.
Yes.
Yes.
We earned money before that by collecting the tamarind seed and sell to the provision store in a mosque street.
Right. Okay. But the money he earned, but that was not the wages. Do you understand the difference between the two?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Because he was not hired by someone for collecting tamarind seeds. He realized that the demand for tamarind seeds has increased in the market and they were easily available around. So he started collecting and selling them to the provision store and then he earned money. Is that clear? All the 5 questions are clear to both of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go to the next. How does the author now answer each of these questions in a short paragraph? About 30 words. How does the author describe his father, his mother, himself? Let us talk about father first. What do you learn about his? How does he describe his father? What do you learn about author's father? What is author's opinion about his father? What have you learned about his father? It is one and the same thing, right? Yes.
The author described his father as a wise and generous man.
Okay. This is, I think, somebody's. Have you opened 2 devices? Any one of you?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
There is disturbance. Yes. The author describes his father as a wise and generous man. Okay. Anything else?
Ma'am, the author father has nor educated and
Right.
nor wealth.
Right. He was neither very educated nor rich, but he was a very simple man and a man of wisdom. Right. Okay. Anything else? Anything else? When we say he was a very simple man, how do we say he was a simple man? He never used comforts or luxuries, but he took care that he took care to provide all essentials to the family, right? And don't you think he was a caring father, caring and concerned father?
Yes, ma'am.
How?
Ma'am, he concerns for his family.
He had concern for his family. Okay, what else? What else? Even though he himself was not educated, even though he was not very rich, yet he took care of giving a good education to his children, right? That's why when Kalam had expressed his desire to go away for higher studies, he never stopped him, he rather encouraged him. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Okay, now whatever you people answered, I will sum it up. Okay, and let us organize in a proper answer. You would say that the author describes his father as a very generous man who is very wise also. His father was not very educated, he was not wealthy, but he lived a very simple life without any comforts and luxuries. But he was a family man who took care of the needs of his family, that he provided all essentials to the family. He was very much concerned about his children's education. It is very much evident from this very example in the story, as Kalam said, when he expressed his desire to go away for higher studies, his father encouraged him. He never stopped him from doing so. I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I tell you one thing. When you are getting such questions in the exams, right? The best way to answer is, I always tell my children, even in class 12th also I tell the same. There is a margin on the paper, on the answer sheet, right? In the margin, you write rough work. There is margin on the right side. You write there rough work. Do give this heading rough work. Okay? And when you have to write about father, just think of the points and keep noting down all those points in the rough work. It will take hardly 1 minute. And after that, each point you elaborate in sentence, and you will find that easily you could write 7 to 10 sentences in description of father. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
मैथ्स में आप लोग रफ वर्क करते हैं ना?
Yes, ma'am.
मैथ्स में राइट मार्जिन में रफ वर्क करते हैं, उसके ऊपर लिखते भी हैं आप रफ वर्क. तो इंग्लिश में भी हमेशा मैं बच्चों को बोलती हूँ कि राइटिंग स्किल्स में और इस तरह के जो क्वेश्चंस होते हैं जिसमें यू हैव टू थिंक ऑफ द पॉइंट्स फर्स्ट, तो उसका बेस्ट तरीका है फटाफट जो पॉइंट दिमाग में आता है उसको फटाफट लिख लो, एंड वेरी नेक्स्ट मोमेंट नाउ यू ऑर्गेनाइज देम. उससे आपको कभी मिस्टेक नहीं होगा कि ये पॉइंट पहला आना चाहिए था या वो बाद में आना चाहिए था. नो, you will be able to organize and connect all the points with each other, right? You just practice it this way. Okay, now let us describe his mother. What did he say about his mother?
Ma'am, he said about his mother, she fed many of people's every day.
Yes. So how would you describe her? Can you give me one word for her? She was feeding so many people every day.
His mother was a kind woman.
Right, kind. Any other? Any other?
No, ma'am.
She was kind, she was noble, she was also generous. Generous is the one who gives away, who helps others, right? So when you say that she was feeding so many people, it means she was generous. The person who is generous can do it, right? So you would say his mother was very simple woman who was very noble, kind-hearted, and generous. She was so caring that she took care not only of her children, but everybody whom she knew. Every day she had been feeding so many people in her house. Give an example. For example, Kalam said that the people being fed by mother, their number was more than the members of the family. Is that clear?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Right? And then she was very warm and affectionate also. Right? How when Kalam had expressed that he wanted to go away from Rameshwaram for higher studies, she was a bit reluctant. Because being a mother, it was difficult for her to part with her son, right? That is, later on, the father had convinced her. So that definitely reflects her being very emotional and very warm person. Is that clear? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So the points here we have discussed about the mother are let me go back to the father first. The points we have discussed about the father are generosity, less educated, not rich, simple living, man of wisdom, right? And very practical man, etc. And about the mother, simple, kind, generous, noble, very warm, affectionate. And the example is she had been feeding the children. The example of her being emotional is she was reluctant to send Kalam away from Rameshwaram, right? Okay. Yes, come to the next now. Any problem in this?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Now, how does the author describe himself?
Ma'am, author described himself as a short boy
Right.
with neither handsome nor smart, and secure childhood. It have like both materially and emotionally.
Okay, good. Yes, Vinayak, would you like to add something to this?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so how he describes himself? He describes himself, let us take up the points first. A short boy, very ordinary, right? Short boy, very ordinary. Then, of course, a Tamilian boy, right? A Muslim who was wearing all the time skull cap, right? That marked him as a Muslim. And the boy who studied physics, the boy who had been very fond of studies, the boy who respected his friends and his teachers, despite whatever their religion or the caste they had. Is that clear? Right?
Yes, ma'am.
And the boy was very curious. Why I said curious? Because you see that he was being told the stories about the Second World War, and then he would trace the information about it in the newspaper. Why would he do so? Because he had the curiosity to know. Is that clear? So that's how you see that when you give 1 point, if you are giving 5 points, at least for 2 points, you have to give example. This is how character description happens. जब भी आपको कोई कैरेक्टर डिस्क्राइब करने को दिया जाता है तो मिनिमम 5 पॉइंट्स आपको देने हैं. ये रूल है, ये एग्जामिनर देखते हैं और उनमें से कोई 2 एग्जाम्पल आपको देने हैं. वो 2 एग्जाम्पल बुक में से भी दे सकते हैं. अब कलाम जैसा पर्सन जो है, everybody knows him, so it is not necessary that your answers would be confined to the book only. If you, other than the book, if you have any information about Kalam, you can give that also. Is that clear? Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
now, How we will organize this answer? We would say that Kalam was a short boy with undistinguished looks. He was very hardworking. He was a Tamilian Muslim boy, as he used to wear skull cap that marked him as a Muslim. Kalam was very hardworking. Just as, for example, during the Second World War, when the demand for the tamarind seeds increased, the children of his age would spend that time in playing, but he would be collecting the tamarind seeds, selling them to the provision store, and earning money, which he would give to his parents. How he had been distributing newspapers. So that shows that he was a very hardworking boy. Another point here it is that that he was very fond of getting education. That's why when he grew up, he shared with his father about his future plans, that he wanted to go away from Rameshwaram for higher studies. He was very open-minded. He would speak up his mind. He would not hide anything from his parents. He was the man, he was the boy who had been respectful to all his friends and teachers, despite their different religion or the caste. The example here is how he would sit with his friend who was a typical Brahmin, Hindu Brahmin. He would share the seat with him on the front desk. Right? So this is how you have to describe the character. Otherwise, if you have an additional knowledge also, you can add that also. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now here the question is, what characteristics, what traits, the qualities in his life does he say he inherited from his parents? Yes. What did he learn from his parents? Yes.
I'm being humble.
Right. Very right. Very right. What else?
Ma'am, wise.
Yes. Just repeat, Anmol.
Ma'am, wise.
Okay.
I'm helpful.
Helpful. Right. For helpful, can you suggest me any other better word?
Generous.
Generous. Okay. He was generous. Right. What else?
Honest.
He was honest. Right.
Determination. He
Yes.
has.
Determined, self-disciplined. Right. Okay. Now let us organize this answer. Fine. According to Kalam, a few qualities in his life he had inherited from his parents, right? He inherited humbleness, humility, and benevolence from his parents. Benevolence is, Vinayak, what you said, helpful. That is benevolence, right? Being kind, it means being kind. So he learned from his parents how the mother had been feeding everyone, father had been helping everyone. So he has imbibed those very qualities in his life. He inherited from his parents, right? He was an honest man and he had an integrity of his character, the one who had maintained balance, very good balance. That's why he had been so respectful to his friends, those who had been all Hindu Brahmins. But he never let this issue come their way in their friendship. Then he was a self-disciplined person because he had seen his parents being so disciplined. He had seen the parents were not educated, the parents were not rich, but they were compassionate. And he had learned that compassion from the parents. I think in the beginning of the lesson, Anmol, I had told you, I don't remember now, but I tell you, when he was the president, he was there in the president house. You know that early in the morning, at the dawn, before the daybreak, he would get up and he would go out for Surya Namaskar. Why? Because he didn't want to disturb the staff. He knew that if he had got up, then the staff would be on duty. And he knew that it was too early. But this was his routine. Right? So there are so many small things which he would take care of. Even when he was the president, because when he was the president, the moment he asked for anything, it would be there for him. But no, he would take care. He would take care, he would ask each and every staff member around him at the time of meals, at the time of food, whether they all had taken food or not. So this is what he would make sure. Who can do this? The one who is humble. The one who is a grounded man, down to earth man. So was Kalam. And this is what he has inherited from his parents. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's go to the next. Here in the third exercise, there are given sorts of situations, right? And you have to give answer in 2 to 3 paragraphs for each situation, right? On the whole, the small society of Rameshwaram was very rigid in terms of the segregation of different social groups, says the author. Yes, this is what he had said, that the small society of Rameshwaram is a small place, but the people were very rigid because of their social groups. There was segregation. The society was divided into social groups. So which social group does he mention? Yes, children.
The social group author mentioned the Orthodox Brahmin
Yes.
and Muslim,
Okay.
and the both social groups are identifiable as one wear sacred thread and one wear a white cap.
Right. Right. Very good. Very good. Anything else? Vinayak, would you like to add something here? Yes, Vinayak, would you add? I think Vinayak has left. Okay. So the social group that he mentions, you are absolutely right, Anmol, that the social groups which belong to various caste or religions or communities, right? So yes, the society was divided into these groups. For example, there was Muslims group, there was Muslim community, there was Brahmins community, or the Hindu community. Right. These groups were easily identifiable by their dress, because Hindus, they were wearing a sacred thread, that is Janevu, around their waist, and the Muslims, they had been wearing skull cap, right? Apart from that, their rituals, their traditions, which they practiced, their way of worshipping, their way of prayers, that was different. So they could be identified because of their traditions and cultural practices. I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were they aware only of their differences? or did they also naturally share friendship and experiences? Yes. Were
Ma'am,
they?
what is the meaning of question? Can you tell me?
Yes, yes. Were they aware only of their differences? Meaning, were they conscious of their differences? Meaning they discriminated, or they shared friendships and experiences? First, you give me one answer. Which one do you think you are going to answer? They were aware of differences, or they believed in friendship?
Ma'am, they don't aware of differences. They believed in friendship because
Right.
because when the Kalams off to the bed, the grandma and the mother of Kalam tell the stories of prophet of Ramayan.
Right, right. What else?
You can add.
Yes, you can add this. So here you would say no. They were not aware of their differences because they believed in friendship and experiences. They did share their personal experiences and friendships. One, you have already given example, right? That Kalam's mother and grandmother, they would tell them the stories, not only the stories of Prophet Muhammad, but they would also tell them the stories of Ramayana, right? And then there is another incident, how Lakshman Shastri, Ramananda Shastri's father, how he had been to the teacher to warn the teacher not to create not to create and not to spread the hatred in the society by telling the children about communal disharmony. Remember that he should not spread the poison of social inequality or communal intolerance in the minds of innocent children. How the science teacher, he had taken Kalam to his place for meals because he wanted to change the mindset of his wife. Despite knowing that she would not tolerate it, he took him. And yes, it impacted. The next time when he visited, then the teacher's wife only served him the food and she allowed him to sit in her own kitchen. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So all these examples, जितने भी examples है ना बेटे इसमें, वो सारे आपको याद रखने हैं. कभी भी कोई आप आंसर देते हैं तो उसमें एग्जाम्पल अगर आप देते हैं तो एग्जामिनर हैज एन इम्प्रेशन दैट यू नो एंड यू अंडरस्टैंड एवरीथिंग, राइट? यस. तो उसमें क्या होता है कई बार कि आपके जो ग्रामेटिकल एरर्स है ना वो ओवरलुक हो जाते हैं और आपको मार्क्स मिल जाते हैं, राइट? यस. The author speaks both of people who were very aware of the differences among them and those who tried to bridge these differences. Can you identify such people in the text? We had just discussed.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, who are the people?
Ma'am,
Uh-huh.
when the author in the 5th standard at the Rameshwaram Elementary School, a new teacher came to author's class.
Uh-huh.
When the teacher saw the author wear a cap, a skull cap, as a Muslim, he marked as a Muslim,
Uh-huh.
and he sat next to a priest's son,
Uh-huh.
Orthodox priest's son. So the new teacher could not stomach the Hindu priest's son sitting with the Muslim boy.
Right.
So the teacher said to the Muslim boy, means to the author,
Uh-huh.
to go and sit to the bank, sit on the back bench.
Right. Very right. Okay. So this is how the author has talked about something who was aware of the differences. right? And who tried to bridge these differences?
Ma'am, who tried to bridge these differences means?
Who tried to bridge these differences? Who tried to remove the differences and unite the people?
The father.
To bridge is to cement the differences. Yes.
The father of Ramandra Shastri.
Right.
And
he tried to bridge the differences. Yes.
And the science teacher of author.
Right. Correct. Very correct. So now you see that these are very important examples. So you must remember. Okay. You would say that author has spoken about both kinds of people. Those who were aware of the differences. Just as, for example, in the story, the new teacher had come, could not tolerate a Muslim boy Kalam sitting next to a Hindu Brahmin. He immediately snubbed Kalam and told him to go at the back. Both the boys felt very sad. But Ramanan Shastri's father, he did not accept it. He cautioned him not to spread this poison of communal differences. And he must apologize. So in this way, the new teacher was aware of the differences, but Ramanan Shastri's father, that is Lakshman Shastri, he had tried to bridge the differences. In another example, the science teacher, he knew that his wife is completely traditional, conservative woman. She was aware of the difference between Hindus and Muslims, and she would not like a Muslim boy to be welcomed in their house and to be fed. Yet, the science teacher had taken Kalam home, served him food, and invited him for another visit. The result was that his wife had changed her mindset and she fed Kalam herself when second time he visited the family. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So these are small examples. इसमें बहुत सारे examples हैं जो आपको याद रखने हैं. Okay? That in what context were they mentioned? Okay. Narrate two incidents that show how differences can be created and also how they can be resolved. How can people change their attitudes? Now, which are these two incidents, Anmol?
Ma'am, one is when the author was in the 5th standard, and one of it when the science teacher of author.
Right. So they are, again, you see that they are the two incidents, right? So that means how important these two incidents are. Okay, so you have to remember. अब इसको एक चीज देखो आप. Question क्या है? Narrate two incidents that show how differences can be created. अगर आपको ये question दिया जाता है. Incident, you know what it is, but how you are going to present the answer, right? You would say, Kalam has shared two incidents that show how differences can be created. Just as, for example, a new teacher came and found Kalam in skull cap sitting next to a Brahmin boy. He was aware of the differences. He immediately told him to sit at the back. However, the two boys, they did not believe in these differences, but the teacher had tried to create differences. These differences were resolved, or the issue was resolved by the intervention of, what is it? What is the name of the boy? That Shastri's father, right? By intervention of Shastri's father, who had conveyed to the teacher that teacher's attitude towards the children was undesirable and unacceptable. Right? The teacher had to apologize. So that's how the people changed their attitude. Is that clear? In another incident, The science teacher's wife, she is conservative. She is not going to change herself. She does not welcome Kalam. Despite knowing all this, the teacher invites Kalam again. And the wife had observed Kalam is like any other human being, sitting the same way, eating the same way. There was no difference. And she changed her mind. Is that clear? So how can we change the mind? How can we change the attitude? We can change the attitude by showing the right path. We can change the attitude of the people by giving examples, by setting examples ourselves. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now let's come to the next. Why did Abdul Kalam want to leave Rameshwaram?
Abdul Kalam want to leave Rameshwaram for higher study.
Right. He wanted to leave Rameshwaram for his higher studies. Okay. What did his father say to this?
His father encouraged his.
Good. Very good. He supported him, right? His father supported him and encouraged that he knew that he wanted to go away to grow, right? Then he gave an example of a seagull, how seagull flies across the sky alone without any nest. So if he has to go for his growth, for his progress, then he would be supported, he would be encouraged, he would be allowed to go away from Rameshwaram. So in this way, father had actually given his consent that yes, he can go away, right? Okay. What do you think his words mean?
Ma'am, the words Abdul father said.
What does that mean? In the last passage of the story, when he gives an example of seagull, and after that he reads a quote from Khalil Gibran. One thing I want to correct here myself. Yesterday I told you Khalil Gibran, a Libyan poet. No, sorry, that was Lebanese. He belonged to Lebanon. When I told you, after that I felt that I have made a mistake. Then soon I realized, oh, he was a Lebanese, right? Yes. His father, what did his father say? Sorry, what do you think his words mean? Try to understand, right? He spoke these very words. He gave an example of seagull because actually he wanted to encourage him. Actually, he wanted to encourage him. Actually, he wanted that he should improve his skills and he should grow in his life. Right? He knew why he spoke these words. He spoke these words because he knew that in life, in reality, there are many hardships. There are many challenges that one has to face. And when the children stay away from the parents, then they can actually independently learn to face up those very situations. Otherwise, as long as they are under the protection of the parents, they know that the parents are there to help. So children do not grow independently then, right? So he showed his wisdom and his intelligence by telling him that he should be allowed, he should improve himself. And if he is away from the parents, if he is focused, if he is following the right path, then he can definitely grow. I hope it is clear to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Now the rest is the language part, right, Anmol? Language part, you should do it for practice, but there are no questions given from these exercises. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
There are no questions given. Here is this exercise. It's good. You must do it, right? There are so many words given, and you have to add a prefix to change their meaning. For example, it's adequate. What do you have to put in front of it? In.
In.
Then it becomes inadequate. It's opposite, right? True. What will you add before true?
Untrue.
Untrue. Untrue. Okay. Responsible.
Irresponsible.
Ir. Irresponsible. Possible.
Impossible.
Impossible. Legal.
Illegal.
Illegal. Literate.
What?
Literate.
Literate.
Illiterate. Right? It is illiterate. Right? So these you will do on your own. But if in case any problem anywhere, you can always ask me. Right? So next week we will start with the moments.
Okay,
Is
ma'am.
it okay? The very first story, that is the lost child. Have you
Yes.
done the lost child?
Ma'am, in school, yeah, done.
Okay. So I'll take up that. It's a very simple story. It won't take much time. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Goodbye. You can leave now.
Good evening, ma'am. Thank
Good
you.
evening. Good evening. You're welcome.